As 14-year-old Layla mourns the death of her grandmother, she stumbles upon a cave deep in the forest, with the strange feeling someone is watching her. One day, as she digs through a box of her grandmother's things, she finds an old photograph of this cave, along with a tape recording that will change her perception of her grandmother forever. I'm Ellie McDonnell, and I was director of Where We Rest. We were extremely excited to create our horror mystery, but due to the current circumstances, we were unable to do so. Our group was working hard with one another and keeping morale high, which is one of the things I wanted to do differently to my last group. Therefore, we put all our effort into our team working skills, having several meetings each week. We were organised and days away from filming when we went into lockdown. We'd gone through the casting process early on to give ourselves enough time for all the auditions. Myself and the producer Zainab ran all the auditions for Layla, the grandmother and the witches. The auditions were great practice for me as the director, as we planned exercises for the actors to see how well they adapted with direction. In this film, I wanted to change the way I direct, stopping myself from straight up telling actors their character's emotion. So in auditions, I used the technique of allowing them to first do their own take on the scene, how they think the actor would react, and then for the next take, I explained to them the situation their character is in to allow them to really go to that mindset and act emotively in their own time. And whenever you're ready. Overall, the actors that were most invested and could best change their performance with direction, showing they would be capable of doing so on filming day, were the ones chosen. As well as planning how I was going to work with actors, we also travelled to all our locations to block and brainstorm scenes. The most complicated but the most fun was the forest with the cave, as we had such a big set to work with. I wanted to brainstorm there as I'm a visual person, so doing so really brought the film to life in my mind.
I'm Lauren and I'm the production designer. Using the floor plan, I've made a model of the bedroom we were going to film in and tried to decorate it like we were going to for the shoot, with things similar to what we collectively owned. The aim was to make the room look girly and not like the student accommodation that it is. It would have been nicely decorated and have loads of family photos up, but would have been a bit messy because I wanted to show the type of person the character is, but show she wasn't feeling well and up to cleaning. We also wanted the lamp at the back to have the red glow for one of the scenes, so here's the effect that would have had. These were the dresses that we bought for the witches, next to the ones we'd had on the mood boards. We were going for white dresses that looked old-fashioned because they looked more ghostly. We've also made sure that they were flowy so that we created the effect we wanted in the slow-motion dance scene. These are tests of the makeup we were going to do on the witches, done by our makeup artist Faye, that we think were very successful. We hadn't yet bought the other costume pieces, but these were what we would have gotten for Grandma and Layla. I'd created this symbol that represents the witch's coven, and we needed a necklace with this on for the plot of the film, so I created a 3D model of what I wanted and used one of the 3D printers in the makerspace to make this before sanding it and painting it to look metal. Lastly, these are some of the props that I'd gathered. Some things for the box of Grandma's belongings, as well as some to make the grave look well cared for, like yellow flowers, to fit the yellow theme of the main character as well, with one bunch that I'd bought earlier that had aged for some visual storytelling.
I'm Sasha, the sound operator for Where We Rest. To understand how sound is used in horror films, I watched A Quiet Place, Midsummer and Dark, which helped me to figure out how to approach creating an atmospheric, intense soundscape. I realised that silences are just as important as actual sounds, as they give emphasis to the sounds that follow, which ultimately helps the narrative to grip the audience and to progress. During the pre-production stage, I created a sound script. To make it easier for the team to follow, I broke down the sound into 4 sections. These were set sound, sound effects, Foley and score. I wanted to record a lot of atmospheric sound to help build a believable world for the audience, which I planned to do by arriving at locations earlier than the rest of the crew in order to record undisturbed. This would capture the specific subtle sounds that you would hear in the different locations. The first voices we hear are eerie chants coming from a group of women, which can be heard faintly by Layla, the protagonist. I planned on increasing the volume as Layla begins to walk, showing that she is getting closer to the women. I wanted to dub the chanting as the women are dancing and chanting at the same time. Therefore, it would be difficult for me to capture the chants clearly on set. While Layla is moving towards them, I wanted to add the sound of her heartbeats, as if she can hear her own heart beating to show that she is frightened. As there is little dialogue in the film, our score was going to convey the tone and intention of the narrative. Taking inspiration from the films mentioned previously, I wanted to incorporate a lot of gradual pulsating sounds during tense moments to anchor a sense of uncertainty. I also wanted to exaggerate the jump scares by having a moment of silence beforehand and adding a sudden burst of harsh sound when the jump scares happen, for example, when all the women turn to look at Layla. During post-production, I wanted to use Foley to enhance some of the general sounds in the film, such as Layla's footsteps on the woodland floor and the crack of a twig. The song you can hear was written especially for the film by a band called My Only Solution. We wanted to use it for the final scene to build tension and to connote an eerie atmosphere to the audience.
Hi, my name's Alex and I was the cinematographer on Where We Rest. My main responsibility on this project was the planning of the camera work. I wanted to try out some new techniques on this shoot, including some more complex camera movements using a piece of equipment that I had not had the chance to use up until this point, the jib. We had two shots when we were planning on using it. One was a way of incorporating the cliff at Alderley Edge. I was planning on using the jib to move the camera back over the edge of the cliff, giving the impression that the camera was going to fall down the cliff. We were also hoping to use the Ronin for many of the tracking shots, as we wanted the camera to glide smoothly, and to have the camera close to the ground, which would not have been possible with the shoulder rig. The complex shots we had planned would have featured the camera following our main actress as she fell to the ground, giving the illusion that the camera was going underground before the camera then rises up out of the ground as she wakes up. We were planning on doing this handheld, with the use of a container with dirt piled against one wall and a pillow at the bottom as a safety precaution. This way the camera would never touch the ground, but it would give the illusion that the camera is, in fact, going underground. My main responsibility during pre-production was the shot list, and half of the floor plans that I was sharing with Ellie. I am happy with my work on these documents. I was in frequent communication with the rest of the group, so we were made aware of any changes being made and update our documents accordingly. I put as much detail as I could into the shot list so that we knew exactly what we were doing when it came to shooting. This included describing all the equipment that we would need for each shot, the duration and any camera movements that we were planning. Overall, I was very happy with how this film was going. We had some very exciting ideas and techniques that we were going to try out, and we all worked very well as a team. It's a shame that we didn't get to make the final film, as I think we could have done a very good job on it.
I'm Zainab, and I'm the producer and co-editor for Where We Rest. The majority of the editing was going to be carried out on Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects. For the editing style, I looked at videos such as The Acid's Basic Instinct for inspiration. The video had a haunting yet majestic tone we wanted to recreate in some sequences of our film. To do this, we planned to film footage at high FPS, then slow it down in post to give a dreamy feel. I was also interested in the idea of incorporating reality and dreams, and thought pre-planned transitions would be a good way to achieve this in post. As I was creating the storyboard, I had this in mind, and one of the first transitions we discussed was going into the climactic coven scene. We wanted it to feel as if the audience had followed Lila underground into her world. As Alex mentioned earlier, this would be achieved through the camera movement and blocking, and I was then going to take the footage and slow it down before cutting it together in post for a smooth transition. I recreated and put together a test shot of what it could have looked like. In addition to this, colour grading was going to be a main factor in bringing the film to life and giving it a distinctive feel. I, along with my co-editor Ellie and cinematographer Alex, were planning on getting together after some initial footage was shot and creating our own looks, taking inspiration from the colour grading of the TV show Dark. Specifically the green and grey surroundings that contrast the bright colours that the protagonist always wears. The aim was to stay naturalistic, yet heighten these elements in the exterior wood scenes. Overall, we worked together well in all elements to ensure we could bring the vision we had for this film to life, and we hope we still get to shoot it at some point.
Push me back in. Silent in the